Good morning, dear friends.
Good morning.
It's wonderful to be here. And I have a very good news. Our talk is about the inventory. So I appreciate the opening very much because it gave us a little start, and it's amazing. Every time I get amazed how the spirituality guides us, because he finished with something that we are going to talk afterward. It's just wonderful. So the talk today, we're going to talk about how can we unleash ourselves from suffering based on the gospel. So when Jesus said, "Blessed are the afflicted, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven," Jesus was not talking about a specific group. He was talking to all of us, because I believe each of us here has experienced a great deal of suffering. Am I right? In one way or another, in different times, in different degrees, but we are all experiencing some suffering. And with Spiritism, we learn that this incarnation is just a tiny step in our path of evolution. We are immortal beings, and we are a long road ahead of us. So this incarnation is just a small step in our evolution. And for that reason, when we embrace the viewpoint that suffering, struggle, pain that comes to us is also temporary. So when we embrace them with this understanding, there is more chance for us to welcome them and receive the blessings they bring to us, to our spirits. And that is an amazing opportunity for us to grow when we embrace this understanding. And that's our goal today. And also in Spiritism, we learn the law of action and reaction. So the suffering we experience is a result of our choices, our actions. And when we do not act or choose according to the law of God, to the divine laws, when we don't act in our best with wisdom, we transgress the laws, create suffering for us. So many times when the problem arrives, the afflictions, the suffering, the pain, we can help we feel afflicted. Many of us feel discouraged. Many of us feel desperate. Many of us act with fears, anxiety. Many of us rebel against our difficulties. Who has done that? What I described. That's human nature, right? Until we get the points. And many times our suffering is not just the problem itself, but is our resistance to the problem, to the situation, to the person. And that creates a really big burden in our suffering. And that's why many times we kind of put it away. We don't experience that. And the problem is when we put it away, when we resist, and we, I don't want to see that, it comes back and comes back, and sometimes with more and more force, louder and louder, until we make a decision to have a look on that. Do you remember a situation that we need to handle in a very big situation, and you look back and say, I wish I was present then and handle them. Do you recall something like that? All of us, right? So when we say, Jesus said, "Blessed are the afflicted," we can also understand it's an opportunity that we have to prove our faith, firmness, perseverance, submission to the will of God. So this is how it goes, you know? Many times we sit in this gate. Let's call the gate of our growth. Suffering, but not doing the steps we need to do in order to cross that gate to grow. And through the literature in Spiritism, we learn that we lost many incarnations doing exactly that. When the situations come up that would be considered an opportunity for us to persevere, to grow, to embrace the lesson, we sit there and we wasted the opportunity to grow. And we have lost many incarnations doing that, in fear, in resistance. And many times we cannot handle what's coming up. We don't know how to handle, let's put it this way. Because when we know how to handle our suffering, we snap out, right? When we're stuck, many times it's because we just don't know. And many times we numb. It's just so painful, so uncomfortable, we sit there and numb ourselves. Many people numb through drinking, eating, watching TV, name it, gossiping, excessive working, name it. We are good at, because we just don't know how to handle. So our goal today is to support and remind each of us, including me, the lessons from the gospel that help us, to empower us to make that break and trespass the gate of learning and growth and handle them. Handle the unnecessary suffering that has been holding us back in our growth. So, big changes happen inside out. Let me tell a scenario. You're suffering and you're miserable and you try to change your spouse. You try to change your boss. You try to change your child, change your job, change country. Who has done that? Oh, hoping that when we change things outside, we'll feel better, right? Bad news, guys. Bad news. Is not that way that works. All the big changes happen inside out. And I love this kind of joke. Who likes popcorn here? Oh, I love popcorn. So the popcorn, you need to go and go against the heat and have that little pain of the heat, right? But then transform this wonderful, light, soft popcorn that everybody loves, right? And through that study, I read an article from a Brazilian writer, Rubem Alves, and he said, there are many people that are out there acting as unpopped corn. They just sit there, rigid, stuck, resisting the heat, afraid to transform, to do their purpose. Their purpose is to transform and evolve in a popcorn. Beautiful, light, soft. Everybody likes popcorn. But they stay there completely rigid, sad, no purpose, useless suffering. So, the homework I'm going to give you guys is to contemplate, not just now, just homework to take at home. Don't need to tell anybody. Look at the suffering you experience in life and ask yourself, how I have been behaving? Am I unpopped corn or becoming a popcorn? Just look at that and you see. So we're going to talk about how to enjoy the popcorn. The first step that we would love to talk about is how we need to put in practice what we have been learning. We forget about that. It's just so hard, isn't it? Learning is wonderful and exciting. We read a lot. We read the gospel a lot. I know people that know the gospel by heart. But when going to act, forget about the lesson. Including me, it's so hard. It's too many lessons to learn. We know that our intellectual learning comes very fast. But the emotional learning, the feelings, this part, to bring it from here to here is very, very slow. And can get quite frustrated. We need to be patient. That's why we need to practice. Practice makes perfection. And the invitation is to remind the lessons we have been forgetting that create unnecessary suffering for us. One of the first lessons that we forget, we hear here all the time, we are immortal beings. However, we go through life and we forget about this lesson and we act as if it's only this incarnation that counts. So we dedicate a lot of time in go, 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 go. Forget about to nurture our soul. And we look life through this incarnation materialistic viewpoints. And we forget the lesson to put the viewpoint, we are immortal beings. What do you mean by that? Put things in perspective, learning to detach a little bit from the material results, the material things, and invest a little more of our time in our immortal life, in our spiritual life. And the result of that, we start acting as a mortal beings, only this moment that counts. So when we look at difficulty or suffering from the present moment, it can get overwhelming. That's why sometimes we get in fear and anxiety, and that scares us. We are very good in seeds and water the seeds of fears and anxiety. I'm good at. I need to keep reminding myself, wait a minute, what I'm investing my attention on, and have the shift to grasp the viewpoint, I'm a mortal being. And many times when we just look at the present incarnation without put things in perspective, without to remind ourselves we are a mortal being, we start acting from fear. And that does not take us in a good place. And many of us sometimes wake up feeling totally discouraged in fear. Once a week or twice a week. But there are many people that wake up every day feeling they are not good enough. They cannot cope. It's hard, it's too hard to overcome a difficulty. And that is the lesson we need to put in practice and remind ourselves we are immortal beings. We are children of God, each of us. So our value is not at the table. We need to remind ourselves that. Jesus is our brother. Are you kidding me? Jesus is our brother. God is our Father. When we remind ourselves every morning, there is more chance that we can get out of our fears and embrace the lesson. Because from this dark space, that's hard to put things in perspective, isn't it? We needed to learn to climb the ladder from this dark space. There is a Zen Buddhist that I like very much, and he said, when we act from fear, discouragement, anxiety, we are in a dark room, in a small dark room in our home. And he said, God wants us to have a better living condition. As a child of God, we deserve to have a better living condition. We deserve to be in the living room. That's where our divine being lives. So when we pick ourselves, that's what I do. When I'm experiencing anxiety and fear, I remember becoming my mantra. God wants me to have a better living condition, and I needed to climb the stair and come back to the living room. And I know in the living room lives my divine being. So we need to put that in practice so we can help ourselves when we are in the dark. You know, we have in the workshop we do here every Wednesday, we said we need some metaphors to help us, because it's so easy to get lost in the fear and anxiety, isn't it? When you're discouraged, it's so hard to pull yourself up, right? We do a metaphor to say, let's put our divine heart. The divine, when you talk about divine heart, you need to be reminded that you are a child of God. You have all the divinity, the seed of the divinity inside of us. So let's put our divine heart and repeat the mantra, my Father wants me to have a better living condition. And that's the way we can help ourselves to the next step. So as Terry said in the beginning, for us to unleash ourselves from suffering, we need to work in our moral, intellectual advance. We need to take an honest, I thought it was so incredible, you said the same thing, take an honest inventory of our beliefs, thoughts, actions, and intentions. This is something that is going to help us to become mindful what's happening with us. Many times we go through life with so much suffering without realizing that we can rearrange things. Many times we have many limited beliefs that locked us in fear and anxiety, making us suffering unnecessarily. So we keep hearing ourselves, get to know ourselves, becoming aware where you are, becoming aware where is your limitations, so we can develop the illuminate side of you, develop the qualities that the seeds are within, so we can live in a way that we can embracing the struggles rather than be crushed by them. the struggles can be our friend if we embrace them and look at them and look at them and say, okay, let's chat, rather than resist and put it away. And the way to do is getting to know ourselves. Because this one is, when we see that we're stuck with unnecessary suffering. What I mean by unnecessary suffering, we are suffering, but we are not acting to see and discover the cause of that suffering. We keep the same old thinking here, creating the same results, and we keep doing the same thing, and we spend incarnations doing that, just that. And that's called insanity. Wishing that create a different result, but we keep doing the same thing, right? So it is imperative that we have a little look to see what's going on, because if we don't do it, what happens? We get absolutely depleted. We run out of gas. That's why many times we got so discouraged, because the things pile up. We keep watering the seeds of what's not working for us, with our attention, with our time, with the same actions. So we get completely depleted and keep suffering, but we don't cross the gate of our growth because we have not yet discovered the lesson that was there for us to move on. This is the time we need to challenge ourselves. We have a choice. We either sit there like popcorn, or we go for endure. What we need to endure in order to grow. So we need to challenge ourselves. And how we challenge ourselves? We need to search what limited belief is locking us in that suffering. And it is amazing when we do an inventory, we discover things that we've been carrying for so long that is not creating the results we want, because we are watering the wrong seeds. So we needed the courage to change, to untangle ourselves from limiting belief that causes suffering, because we have the understanding what we're nurturing here. We make it power. We learn with Spiritism the power of our thoughts. The power that links with our feelings, you know, and repeat it. So we needed the courage to change all that. One thing I like to do that helps me a lot when I feel I'm suffering, stuck, and I cannot see what is the lesson here. Because when I see the lesson, I handle. But you know, you experience that, you get stuck and you're like, you don't know, you exhausted all the possibilities, right? So a nice way to do it that works for me, I write. Put things in perspective. So when you write what you're experiencing, you detach yourself a little bit from here and you put in front of you, you have more chance to observe. Your divine being, you invite, put your divine height on and do an exploration. So you write it down until you find some beliefs. Many people run with the belief, no matter what I do, I cannot get it anyway. I cannot get it right anyway. And that is running in the background like a virus on the computer. You know, and sometimes by writing, we see what is at least one layer, what is happening. And I always sit and meditate a little bit. I embrace that. I looked, it's like a little baby that I've been carrying. And I look at that and I allowed myself to feel what that brings to my life. And I challenge that. Is that true? I collect information. I love to collect information. I define that belief until I can untangle myself and see what I need to learn from it. And many times, we can push it away. It's so crystallized on us. I like mantras, to repeat affirmation, prayers, name it the way you like it. I always choose something that's going to empower me to overcome that situation. And I repeat it. And I allow the feeling of this new affirmation, new mantra, what's going to bring this new belief is going to empower you. Sit and meditate and feel. Because our old bad habit, we can't dissolve it, just need to bring a new good habit to replace it. So that's a way that we can help ourselves to let go those suffering that is not helping us. And by doing that, we create a space for the next step, for the growth. And I like to tell a story that is not a story, it's a fact about the eagle. Do you guys know much about eagles? The eagles is the bird that lives the longest. Can live for 70 years. But when it's getting an age of 40s, the eagles need to make a very big decision. Either die or renew itself. Just because the talons get very flexible, cannot grab the prey anymore. The beak become curved, cannot help. And the feathers, the wings get very heavy because the feathers are very old and heavy, cannot fly anymore. So she's gonna die. The eagle is gonna die. So in order for her to live 30 years more, the eagles fly to the top of the mountain where they can be there. And it is knock in the wall until it plugged it out. Can you imagine the pain? But she doesn't say, oh my God, it's so painful, I'm not doing this, no, I'm gonna live for two, no, let's forget it, let's eat something instead. No, she endures the pain because she knows, the eagles know that when the new beak arrives, she's gonna use that to plug it out all the old talons. And she endured that pain just because she knows, the eagles know, with the new talons, she's gonna put all the heavy feathers out. And she endures that pain of transformation because she knows a new feather is gonna come. And she sits quietly for 150 days until she's able to have the first flight of renewal from her 30 years of life. And that's the invitation for us to do the same thing. We need to let it go, the unnecessary beliefs. We need to let it go the burden of the past, or the resentments we have been harboring, the fears, the anxiety. We need to renew. Can you imagine if the ego would say, blame me, oh, it's because of that burden that I'm in this situation? No. It takes responsibility to renew itself. And that's the challenge we need to renew ourselves. And when we do that, we let it go the unnecessary suffering. The energy that we waste with unnecessary suffering, we place to renew ourselves, to endure the challenge, the pains. But we have our focus not what in this small trial, we are putting our focus on the renovation, the growth that our spirit is encounter when we embrace that. That's the only way we can go ahead to create a new story. Many of us, including myself, keep repeating the same story. We meet the person, we haven't seen the person in 2 years, and you meet, they are talking about the same story. Who is familiar with that? I've done that too. Many stories that I still need to put an end on. But the invitation is for us to put an end in that stories. Take responsibility, discover what that story is bringing, what blessing is bringing to you, so you can grow to a new height. And when we take responsibility, we earn also the right to put an end in our story. So we can start a new story. We can start a new page. So it's time to close yesterday's page. To start today with an open mind, open heart. And Spiritism invites us to start with the phrase, I'm an immortal being. I'm a child of God. And my way to my Father's house. And when we do that, we let it go. The time that we wasted in past incarnation, and we're embracing the new learning steps for us to illuminate our soul and our hearts. And that's the invitation. And when we are in this process, we are going to endure difficulties, unknowns. When we challenge yourself, requires courage. We need to be brave. And now it's time to pray. Remind the lessons. Pray and be vigilant. But prayer supports the soul, but however, pray alone is not enough. We cannot pray from fear and anxiety alone, because that doesn't go much further. For us to pray, it requires that you have a firm belief in the kindness of God and the basis for a deep faith. And faith is a seed, like Jesus said, if our faith is in the size of the seed of a mustard, right? We can move mountains. So this is right there, was educating us to water our seeds of faith. So we can create a very robust faith to support us, to give us perspective. And this is one of the things that help us, give us perseverance. A strong faith gives us perseverance, energy and resources to victory over the obstacles, both in small and great things. So we need to water our seeds to grow. Rather than water our fears and anxiety, learn to water the seeds of faith and love, to feel empowered, to give you the courage, the elegance and the dignity to embrace the difficulties that present itself. Because everything that presented itself is our responsibility, because there is one thing Spiritism taught us. God is just and divine and good. The laws protect us. So everything that we encounter, it is our responsibility. Somehow, it's the consequence of our choices. So the gospel teaches us whatever we want to sow is optional, but the harvest is mandatory. So whatever is presenting for us is just an opportunity for us to grow. And one of the things that many people said, oh, I don't know how to do that. And it's so simple steps. Like I give an example, it's such a beautiful morning, right? If you go for a walk and allow the sunshine hits you, and you just look, wow, my Father is warming my heart. And if you look in the nature and just allow the flexibility of the wind and the leaves, if you bring that wave, it's like a song. Let that warm your heart. Many times we walk in the street, you don't see anything because we are encapsulating our fears. But just open your heart and just remind yourself, I'm seeding my seeds of love. I'm watering my seeds of faith. When you walk in and you press, oh my God, thank you for one more day. God is giving us another full day to learn and grow, to take the next height. Just by that look in gratitude, you are watering the seeds of faith and love. So it's in our hands. In the morning, it's our choice what kind of seeds you want to put your water, your attention, your particles. It's a choice that we need to remind because we forget. When we forget we are immortal beings, we forget about that. We 9 to 5 and run 5 jobs. I don't have time. Are you kidding me? Have a little walk and breathe in. Are you kidding me? I don't have time for that. How many times you go like this? But that feeds our stress. That feeds the seeds of our anxiety lifestyle. It is imperative that we learn it to make it that pause, to embrace, to take that moment for us, to empower ourselves. When we have an understanding that only when we cultivate the seeds of love and faith that we can let go suffering, we're going to see our life flourish. And when we have an understanding that every hurt, every stress, every wrongdoing, everything, every wound is like a little hole in our perispirit, in our spiritual vest. And every time you have the time to embrace the learning, that you cultivate the seeds, Your virtue seeds like to illuminate your soul. You are like filling up the hole. And that's where our light comes from. Many of us like full of holes. There is no way the light can transcend. So every time we take responsibility to take care of us, take responsibility for what is creating those feelings that is uncomfortable, embrace them, bring your divine heart to explore, to embrace, to soothe yourself. You invest, you embroider in your spiritual vest. And that is the invitation for us. That's the way we can release the suffering. I would like to do a little experiment. You feel comfortable doing? Would you like to do it? Stand up and find a partner that you feel comfortable with. Okay, there you go. Find a partner. Okay? Turn back like this. Turn like back to each other. Okay, Marcelo, let Terry do with...
With him? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we do this.
You do with me later. Yeah, like this. Helping him to stay like this.
Who what?
Yeah. Okay?
Back to back. Okay.
All right.
There we go. Help.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'll write to translate.
Okay.
I did interpret.
So now, close your eyes. Okay, you have a little suffering. You might have a little baby suffering in your heart. Lean in each other. Very gently, support one another. Just relax, support very gently. Okay? Feel how wonderful when you can lean on someone. Feel the support. Feel how wonderful it feels when we ask help when we need. He's your brother and support you. Lean on it. And he's only your brother. Now you're gonna lean on God. God is there with you. Feel the support that God has for you. When you're suffering, ask help. Lean on God. Learn to put yourself in the arms of God. When you're ready, you can sit back. It is amazing when we learn to place ourselves in the arms of God, how much soothing our spirit get immediately. So I invite my friends to learn, to remember, to practice, to put all the Jesus lesson in your life, translate it from here to your actions, to your heart, to your feelings. Water every morning, at least one drop, and the seeds of love and faith, and just observe how your life will flourish. And those are the messages. This is the message.